And right now we are joined by none other than someone who blew us all away a couple of weeks ago at the Maverick Center. And he's going to be showing up once again at the Mountain America Center on June 24th. It is Ricky Mamone in the building. Ricky, how you doing, man?
I'm feeling great. How are you doing, man?
Doing very, very well. So, Ricky, I just got to give you your props. A couple of weeks' notice, you go in and fight Malachi Novosel in one of the most exciting matchups, I think, of one of the best cards we've had this entire year. How did you feel in that first fight against Malachi Novosel back in April?
Um, I, I felt good, but I knew what I was kind of going against. I know he had is more experience than me. My dad threw me in the fire though, so growing up, it wasn't really a big thing. It was just another day for me. I just went in there and fought, and shoot, the results didn't come out what I wanted to, but it was a good experience.
I did kind of want to ask you. I didn't want to ask you this during fight week because I didn't want to, mess with your psyche or anything. But what was your mindset kind of going in? Was because it was short notice. It was to a lot of people, it looked like, man, this is going to be a really tough fight for Ricky. Did you kind of go into it with the mindset of like, I'm just going to go in there and get that experience and get that first, fight under my belt, win or lose?
Yeah, it didn't really matter to me. I just wanted to go in there and get that experience. Of course, I wanted to win. But so yeah, I'm just grateful for Zach for reaching out to me and letting me have to join Fierce Fighting.
Yeah, no, we loved having you and we can't wait to have you again. And we're going to talk about that matchup with Kyle Brown in just a little bit. But when I was doing my prep, I actually reached out to you and you told me that you had 20 some odd fights under your belt by the time you had made that walk back in Hawaii as a kid. What was that like growing up? You kind of mentioned your dad, always throwing you into the fire, always giving you fights. What was that like as a kid growing up and taking fights at such a young age?
It was a good experience. I honestly think if it wasn't for my dad, I probably wouldn't be doing this. But even funny story is he'd always, if we were like off by a 10-pound weight, he would not, you're fighting, it doesn't matter. So it was just a good experience because it taught me to be tougher and just not to back down from any fights.
How did that all kind of come to be? I know your brother's a fighter. I know your dad is also an undefeated professional fighter as well back in the day. How did it all come to be? What are kind of your first memories of when you began training, when you began fighting? Because it had to have been at a very young age.
Yeah, so I started around like 6 years old, and shoot, honestly, I don't know, it was just memorable. That every day I would be training. I used to do football, and then at 6 o'clock to 8 we would train, and then that would be like our everyday. It was just normal for me, so it didn't really bug.
How do you feel like being an athlete has kind of helped mold you into the fighter that you are? Because you are a very, very successful. You were a quarterback at Granger High School. You did very well in wrestling this year. Obviously, you're still fighting after you've graduated. Congratulations on graduating as well. We thought that was crazy that a high school kid was getting into a cage for Fierce Fighting Championship at the Maverick Center. But how has being an athlete throughout your entire life helped you into becoming an athlete, later on in life when you've gotten older?
Training, oof, just training a lot is it helped me a lot into anything because the footwork we do for football can relate a little bit into wrestling, or it can relate into like fighting. There's a lot of stuff that relate that not a lot of us know about. So I think just a lot of the footwork and the mentality, that just all goes together.
Like you mentioned, like you started fighting when you were 6 years old. You're not new to this game whatsoever. Do you feel like that is footwork one of the things that you've really, really focused on, like as you've gotten older and as your careers kind of began to sprout?
Yeah, footwork was a kind of a big thing growing up. That's all we pretty much did. And my dad always threw us on like the ropes or you like bob and weave. That even helped me in football. I don't know how it did, but it helped me a lot in football, and it transitioned way more into like fighting. So
In what way do you think I'm curious as a football fan as well. I'm curious, how do you think that your footwork and your head movement helped you on the football field as a quarterback? I believe, right? You were a quarterback.
I was
Okay.
all over, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
mostly.
But
It it
yeah,
like the way you transition. You know how people juke. It's like the way you level change. It just messes with people's minds when you're on defense trying to tackle somebody. Like if you run this way and then you level change and you cut back this way, just everything works all into place if you work on footwork and level changing.
You've mentioned your dad in almost every single answer that you've had so far, and I think that's very prominent. And your dad is incredible. From what I've seen on social media, I love watching the videos of you guys training and things like that. What is that like, getting the chance to spend so much time with your dad as well as your brothers as you train for fights?
It's good because although we're training, we're getting that work in. It's like family time for us too. We don't like go to dinners and then sit down like, oh, we're gonna have a family time. Ours is like we're gonna punch each other in the face and enjoy while we do it. So it's good training with my dad and my brothers.
Does it ever get too competitive between the brothers? Does it ever get a little heated between you guys?
Yeah, oh, all the time. Even if we go light sparring, it'll end up to like at least 100% just going at it.
Does your dad welcome that, or is he more like, guys, we gotta practice here? It's not
No, yeah,
fight night.
he loves it. He gets jealous every time he can't handle. He jumps in with us. He tries to go as long as he can, but you know he's kind of getting there to where he's out of shape. So, but he's trying
Yeah.
to get back so he can still hop in and punch us in the face too while we're at it.
Speaking of your dad, do you think he enjoys coaching more, or do you think he enjoyed his fighting career more?
Um, I think he likes the coaching more because the way he talked about it is just he wants everything that we do to be great. You know, he wants us to be better than how he was. He said he had like a good run fighting, but it wasn't for him. So he just loved raising us, and I think that was kind of cool.
It's really really cool to watch from a distance as someone who is a fan of you, your brother. Every time that you guys make the walk, it's just so exciting. When it comes to watching, I mean, speaking of your brother, when it comes to watching him fight, is that nerve wracking? What are your emotions like when you're seeing your brother fight versus when you have to fight? I'm sure you're even more nervous for him than you are for yourself.
I don't know. It's a little bit different. Like when he fights, I don't know. I just get excited. Like I want to jump in the ring and just fight too. But no, obviously I can't do that. I honestly get excited though. I get really excited when he fights, and not as much nerve wracking. But yeah,
Are you in your brother's corner when he's
I
fighting?
was.
How is that cornering versus being in the fight yourself?
It's just good to like be there for him. You know, knowing that I can be there to help him and show him what he needs to do if something is going off. You know.
I do want to ask you about that short notice fight with Malachi. That was something that was kind of a shock to all of us. I remember when I got the news, because obviously I need to make sure that everything's prepped for the broadcast. I remember hearing that a 19-year-old kid who's still in high school at Granger High School is going to be fighting Malachi Novosel, and he's making his debut, kind of, right? And I'm curious what that process was like on your end. Was it just waking up and finding out? Did your dad tell you? Like how did that all come to be?
Um, I was actually in class, like during class, and my dad calls me, and usually I hang up the phone, but I told my teacher I'm gonna take this call real quick, so I stepped outside. I was like, "Oh, what's up, Dad?" And then he said, "Hey, there's a fight for fierce fighting. The guy got into a car accident. Do you want to fight?" I was like, "Oh, like yeah, I'm down." So I kind of made it official right there. I just told him, "Yeah, I'm down," and then I went back to going into class, and then I'm pretty sure he called up my uncle and told him that we would take the fight. So it wasn't really a thinking about it, or it's just I'm down, and then got into it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you telling me that kind of the slogan in your home was "We fight everybody," and that definitely personified itself that day and in the coming weeks. When it did you know you were fighting Malachi? Did you know who Malachi was?
I I don't even know who he was. I just know that he said that he had a couple fights on him. He's like ranked number 3. I was like, perfect. I'm fighting. He's ranked number 3. I'll do it.
I'm curious if you could just kind of walk us through what you remember, one, making the walk, but also, I mean, you cracked Malachi a couple times in the stand up.
Yeah. Shoot. Well, the plan was to just. My dad said don't play jujitsu because we kind of knew that he did jujitsu a lot, and I ended up just tying up with him, and then I did a cage work, and he looked like he tried to do a guillotine on me, and all I did was lift my head up, and we fell to the ground, and that from then I'm not really that good at jujitsu, but there's no excuses. I got caught in a triangle, and then I just got put to sleep.
Do you remember any of the punches that you threw? Was there any moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I think not necessarily wobbled him, but do you think like, oh, I connected really well there?
I honestly think all my punches were connecting, but I know the last combination I threw, I know that one caught him a little bit because that's when he started grabbing onto me and trying to hang on. But I feel like all my combinations were connecting. I'm not too sure.
No, they absolutely were. We were very impressed. There's a reason why we're so excited to see you again. Um, at the Maverick Center, was that the biggest venue you had ever fought in front of, considering your childhood growing up as well?
Oh yeah, the Maverick Center is probably one of the biggest I ever fought in, and it
Yeah.
was exciting. It was
What was
different.
what were those emotions like, kind of walking out and being like, whoa, there's more people here. This is a bigger venue than I've been in before.
I'm a quiet guy, so it was kind of hard for me, but it was like nothing. When I get into the ring, there's nobody surrounding me. It's just me and the guy. So when I got into the ring, it was like nothing. I just got back to my normal self and then just went in there and fought.
Do you remember your first fight when you were a kid?
Yeah, I do. I think I was 7 years old, 7 or 8. But crazy thing is that boy I fought when we were a kid is we grew up and he's playing college football right now in Las Vegas. I'm pretty sure Hezekiah. But that was a I guess it's all meant to be, because we all grew up and then we became friends. We played football together, so it was good.
Do you think that there was anything when it came to your wrestling career that was benefited by your MMA career? Do you think that you did well as a wrestler because you were kind of already used to being in fights? Wrestling's not a fight, but it is pretty closely simulated to, hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, I would say honestly, I didn't really know that much about wrestling. It was just growing up and my dad making me like really tough. I didn't. If you watch my matches, I don't know that much of a technique, but I can stand there and I was mentally tough and I don't know how I pulled wins, but I made it to state. So it's just a mental game, to be honest, that I think that got me far.
One of my big questions that I'm curious of is, obviously your dad's a coach and obviously you and your brothers fight together. Is there any chance that there is a Mamone expansion, a gym that opens, that is open to the public, that more people can, learn how to box like you and your brother? Because you are really, really talented fighters. And it goes to show that your dad is a very, very talented coach as well.
We were planning on doing that, of course, later on. That's why we have, if you ever seen our Mamone Bradas, we have like pages on YouTube and Instagram. So we wanted to like use that to expand a little bit more, to make a name for ourselves. And then if we could, yeah, that would be nice to just make a gym and just to give back and teach everybody the knowledge that we know to the people that want to learn.
When it comes to fighting, what do you think your main goal is?
I would love to take it far. If I could get into the UFC, that's a big dream. But if not, I'll just fight as long as I can, and then I wanted to use fighting as a what is that, like a aggressive income to where I could help start up a business and stuff. So I want to love doing the sport that I do, but then later on in life, I have to think about what I want to do to settle down and stuff because I know I can't do this forever.
What are some of your business goals? What do you think about maybe opening or doing?
Well, I wanted to get into like real estate later on or like learn a little bit now, but as of right now, I was thinking about going to college for UVU and then just entering like the fire science or just EMT fields.
Very cool. I saw it. Did you get like some sort of an EMT certificate when you graduated?
Yeah, I did. I got a certificate for passing the class and like I'm actually still studying for the national test, and if I pass this test, then I would be certified to where I could just get into a job ready. So
Well,
yeah, I did it.
that's incredible. Well, good luck to you with that. When it comes back to fighting, what is the number one reason why you love it?
I like to do it for my family, of course, and the experience, just just to see how far I can go. Of course, watching like all the UFC champions and all that, I would love to be there one day, but the main goal is to just enjoy while I can before I can't do it no more.
You're going to be facing Kyle Brown, who is a very, very talented fighter in his own respect. He did lose his last fight, but he was very, very well equipped for that fight. When it comes to that matchup, what are you looking forward to facing off against Kyle Brown in Idaho Falls?
Pretty much a similar, just no, don't take it to the ground. If US tries to take me down, sprawl and just pretty much gonna be sprawl and brawl. That's my game plan, and just keep the fight on our feet and just see where it takes me from there.
Well, Ricky, we absolutely cannot wait to see that matchup. You two are one of the most exciting matchups on a card that is completely stacked from top to bottom. Ricky, thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Blake. Appreciate you.